And I think a lot of times people think that because they have started a business, because they have started a company, they are building an asset.
Mhm.
And I think it's probably good to talk about what's the definition. So, like when you talk about asset, Randy, what are you talking about? What do you mean when you're thinking about an asset?
Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be an on the ground tangible thing, but something that you can go to, that you can pass on, that you can rework. I look at an asset as a multifaceted something that can earn you a good living. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Rob, this episode, I want to talk about assets, right? And there is this common belief that assets are this access to capital thing. And as a result of access to capital, I was able to increase my revenue and therefore and I'm going, hogwash, right? So assets on one thing. And then I'm
Mhm.
really stoked about this story that Michael Jackson, they just sold his estate or not his estate, I'm sorry. So
His
his a
estate just sold his
part of,
catalog.
half of
Hmm.
his catalog
Hmm.
and publishing for $600 million. Now, I did some research and I said, wait a minute,
Hmm.
didn't they buy this back in 2016? Well, they bought something else in 2016 for $750 million. So now they're saying that, oh, well, that means, and he only sold half of this time. He only sold half this time. So they're saying that it was valued at $1.2 billion. Now, when we talk about assets, y'all, now that's an asset. And it's an asset that was left behind. And that's what I want to jump into about when
Hmm.
we're building business, we're getting this access to capital. Is that
Yep.
the only thing? Is there other leverage moments? I want to dive into it all.
No, I love it. I love, this is you talking about legacy and generational wealth and how to build things. This is what I love to talk about. So we gonna have a good one
You
today.
actually have a company called what?
Yeah, the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group. Exactly. Right. As a matter of fact, every company that I own, because I have a couple of every company that I have and the nonprofit that we have has legacy in the title because it's that important to us.
And it's like this, right? We think about what are we leaving? What's left, right? And now, I'm in the digital space heavy, right? I've
Hmm.
invested in
Hmm.
some on the ground stuff and, they didn't work or whatever because they were on the ground. But anyway, so I think about what can be left that can be brought back in, that can be
Hmm.
reworked, that can be reused, that somebody can make movies on.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. These are the kind of assets that I
Right.
think live longer than you.
No, I agree with you. Matter of fact, speaking of Michael Jackson and that whole thing, serendipitous. Yesterday, I was watching it on Netflix. There's a documentary about the "We Are the World" song. So it's called like One Night, One Glory, One Crazy Night, or something like that. But uh it was basically the story of the "We Are the World" song. And interestingly enough, didn't know this. I knew Michael Jackson was in the song, but Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie wrote the song, right?
Mm.
Um, and then Quincy Jones helped produce it. Stevie Wonder had something to do with it as well. But you watch the whole thing, and the interesting thing about that, at the end of the movie, they talked about how the song had made something like $80 million for charity when it came out, and
Mm.
it's made over $160 million to date because it's still making money for what is it rescue work in Africa,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Refugee work and hunger um uh drives and things like that in Africa. It's still making money to this day. That song was done in 1985. When you talk
Leverageable
about,
asset.
one of your favorite things is do the work once to get paid many times, right? Like this is the quintessential thing. And I think, when we talk about assets, I know a lot of the mentors that I've had have talked about this question. Are you building an asset or are you building a job? Right. And I think a lot of times people think that because they have started a business, because they have started a company, they are building an asset.
Mhm.
And I think it's probably good to talk about what's the definition. So, like when you talk about asset, Randy, what are you talking about? What do you mean when you're thinking about an asset?
Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be an on the ground tangible thing, but something that you can go to, that you can pass on, that you can rework. I look at an asset as a multifaceted something that can earn you a good living, that can be
Mm-hmm.
sold, that
Mm-hmm.
can be reworked. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I think about it.
Yeah.
So I used to
Yeah.
be, y'all know me. If y'all know me well enough, then y'all know I used to buy and hold and sometimes sell real estate. So at that particular time, when I was 20, 2 years old, I says, I want to extend the asset of working into other assets that grow. That's when I started buying real
Mm-hmm.
estate. And that was a
Mm-hmm.
big thing back then, right? I bought the Dave Del Dallo tapes and all that stuff, right? And learn how to, buy low and all this stuff, right? All the good stuff. And then if you wanted to flip it, you could. Now, take some years from now, right? From then, and I started thinking, wait a minute, what else could I buy, create that is an asset as well? So that's when I started getting into digital real estate because I can
Mm-hmm.
do the
Mm-hmm.
same things. I own 146 domains. I can sell those domains.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And I can
Bless you.
sell those domains if I want to. I can put them on a
Mm-hmm.
website. I can sell the website if I want to. I can flip it. I can
Mm-hmm.
or
Yeah.
spin it up and let it grow.
I like how you put it there, right? It's a thing that basically is a store of value, right?
Yes.
And and one of the biggest things is that it's a store of value that generally is I would say generally is appreciating rather than depreciating, right? Um, and so a lot of times people think about this in terms of their businesses, and you know, one of the people that I listen to a lot, and I've talked to you about this on here a lot, Myron Golden says, a lot of times people are starting businesses and they'll start service businesses first.
Mhm.
And I'm in that category, right? I started a consulting firm, and we are in the process, and we're doing the transformation now. We started off, and most of what we did was heavily dependent on me, right? And now you see over my shoulder, right? There's a couple books right there, and Randy, you got a couple books that are out there as well. Those are different, right? These are products. These are things where I wrote, why can't people just do their jobs? 6 years ago, I wrote Thriving in Chaos 4 years ago. And I just sold 6 copies of those at a speaking event. That's why I'm dressed the way I am today. I was speaking today. I just sold six of them at the event, and then a bunch more online and all the rest of stuff. Like I did that work years ago, but I'm getting paid on it now because that's an asset that I can continue to sell and continue to get paid on. And I think oftentimes what we struggle with is when we know how to do something, we don't know how to really systematize that or create that, turn that service into a product, turn that service into something that we can sell. I think you and I talked about this some maybe about 6 months ago on one of our episodes where there's a
Mhm.
book by John Warrillow that I love. It's called Built to Sell. And I highly recommend it for any entrepreneurs that are out there listening. When you're thinking about how to turn your service, if you have a restaurant, if you have a a catering business, or if you have a hair styling business, or if you have a business where you are the principal person that is serving, where it is a service that is what you are selling, there's a couple of different ways that you can actually transition that business to make it a product business out instead of it being a service business, or to make it a service business, but it's a service business that you don't deliver so
Right.
that you can extricate yourself from that, right? I have some coaches that I'm training, I have some consultants that I'm training so that I am slowly but surely moving out of being the principal service person in my business. And that frees me up to do so many more things. And now I have a business that I could sell if I wanted to,
Right. Correct.
right? And even if I don't want to sell the business, and this goes back to what you talked about with Michael Jackson's catalog, right? He didn't have to sell the entire catalog to make money off it. He could sell, right? If I have a client list, I can sell access to my client list. I don't have to sell my business, right? I could even partner with somebody or JV with somebody where they get to service one part of my business. I don't have to do it anymore because I've developed those client relationships. They have to do all the marketing, all the sales, all the rest of that type of stuff. But because I have the client relationship, I can still make money off of it. All of those types of things. But talk to us a little bit, Randy, because like I think that you and I understand why the asset is so important. But talk to me a little bit about why, like what you saw with Michael Jackson's estate and being able to sell that catalog for $600 million after they had bought it back and reconciled and all the rest of the type of stuff. What what's the power of the fact that Michael Jackson died in what 2009 and his heirs, his estate, his family was able to sell part of the catalog for $600 million. Like,
Yeah, it's a wonderful. It was a couple of people I have been thinking about with regard to what you create one time. That's my ethos, right? Create something once, have it and have it leverageable forever, right? So if
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
you are looking at yourself as the product, in that case, he's a singer, he was the product, right? In
mm-hmm,
certain cases, he wrote the music, da da da, right? But if you think about the singer itself, now he has a catalog that can be redistributed years later. I thought
mm-hmm,
about Prince during this time. That's the second person I thought about. Now I was looking at a documentary on how he used to create,
mm-hmm,
and he had an engineer, he had a sound person, and he says if he wasn't on a date, she says if he wasn't on a date or touring, he was creating. He literally he would create all day, go on or create all night, sleep on the plane if he had a gig to go to, and that was the routine. But then the next day, she was like, he would be rehearsing, and then he would be creating. So it's like,
mm-hmm,
oh my gosh, right? So he's creating something that now he has this vault that they talk about of
mm-hmm,
Prince songs. And someone says you'd spend 20 years just listening to what was in the vault. So now if we think about that, and I want to transition into resources and resourcefulness. So
mm-hmm,
now
mm-hmm.
I look at those two, right? And I go, somebody over on the Michael Jackson side is being um resourcefulness or having resourcefulness, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm not seeing a lot of stuff from Prince. I'm not a lot seeing it. Maybe it's still in litigation or whatever it is. People are trying to
Yeah,
figure it
yeah,
out
because
because
he
he had
did, yeah, because
family.
he passed without a will.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, so I don't know, what do they call that? When it's in probate or something
Probate.
like that. Yeah.
Yep,
So maybe that's
yep.
it. But my point is that when you start looking at the possibility of creating stuff, you have that
Mm-hmm,
possibility because
mm-hmm,
Rob talked about it earlier, products, right? And what one of the companies that I run is Monetize Your Life, because what I'm doing is showing you how to productize, then monetize. Simple. Productize yourself, whatever it is you're thinking about, whatever it is you do, whatever it is you fear, whatever it is you have, anxiety about, productize it and then monetize it because we want to be out there serving and helping other people get through maybe what you're getting through, whatever.
mm-hmm,
But that becomes the thing that you now have created and you do it in a digital way so that it can be reproduced cheaply so that the margins are higher. I'll give you an example
mm-hmm,
from a business that I literally just sent some information to. I get trend reports all the time. I got a trend report on the cleaning business, and this was a cleaning service, right? And they're kind of struggling, da da da, because customers, right? So I said to them, here's a trend that shows how people in this industry, this multi-billion-dollar industry, are making a good living for themselves. Now, to your point, you can have a job or you can create an asset, right? Are you building a,
mm-hmm,
a job or are you building an asset? Now, I
mm-hmm,
understand you might build the job or have the job, but always get your mind on, and this is what I talked to him about. I says, look, now let's talk about, in fact, a guy's wife was on one of my lives I have every Saturday. She was on my live and I was talking about how whatever it is you're doing, I want you to be able to productize. You said systematize, productize, and then I'm gonna show you how to monetize it, right? So that's what I was
mm-hmm.
presenting as
Yep.
here's what you do, here's how you grab it, create the information from it, productize that, and then so you can eventually monetize it. Go back, do the same thing in the job. If it's a job, right? It's making you 70, 80, 100 grand a year. And this goes back to one of our other videos. Rob, you says, look, all you got to make is $200 a day. And you've done that, what, $73,000?
Yeah.
200 a day times 365 days. Now, this is the key. Times 365 days. And you say, I ain't working every day. That's where you create the other thing that works for you. You
Yep.
can
No,
work some,
I agree.
and that
I
thing can
agree.
work some. That's an asset.
And that thing that you talked about when we talking about resourcefulness, right? I think one of the interesting things, a lot of people say, if I had this, then I'd be able to. If I had this, then I'd be able to. Right. And I hear so many people talk about what they don't have that's keeping them from XYZ. And one of the funny things about, in my business, a lot of times I'm working with business owners and business leaders that if I had this person, we would be able to. If we had, right. And it's like, yeah, but you haven't been able to find that person because generally that person isn't in the market, or they're much more expensive than what you're willing to pay. Right. So how do you take what you have and build it into that? And that's where resourcefulness, I think, comes into that conversation, because a lot of what resourcefulness is being able to look at what you have in your possession at your disposal, and how do you make that work? How do you make it possible for that thing to do more than what it's
Right.
designed to do, or what it's possible doing right now? And I think so many times business owners, like, this, we hear this a lot. People are saying, I need access to capital, access to capital, access to capital.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, in my line of work, I see plenty of businesses that have enough money, but then they don't have the people that can run the stuff. So they got machines, and they got, systems, and they got payroll, and they got all this stuff. And it's not that they don't have tons of money, right? But what they don't have are systems that actually make it so that they spend their money so that they're getting, 40%, 50% margins, right? Mm-hmm. They're running their business in such a way that their margins are paper thin. And so then, of course, now, even though they have lots of money, I need more money so that we keep this going. And I think it's so much better for us to look at, how can I do more with less? And it doesn't mean you have to spend less money, or you have to, be a spendthrift, or not looking at things. But the key is, how do you get to the point where you can finance your business based off of the customers that you can get? Or how do you get to the point where you can look at what you're doing and find ways to do joint ventures so that you don't need the money because they're paying to acquire the client, and then you're just adding value to what they're doing? How can you do things in such a way that that obstacle is no longer that obstacle? That point I think you made, about resourcefulness, is so important, because there's so many people out there that are stuck, but they're stuck because my daughter was learning about this in her psychology class. They call it functional fixedness, right?
Functional fixedness.
Right. Functional fixedness, right? Is basically, if I look at this, and this is my phone, right? I see it as a phone. And therefore, if I have papers on my desk and somebody opens the window and the papers are blowing around, I'm sitting here looking around my desk for a paperweight with my phone in my hand. And I'm not on my phone. And I'm looking around, and I can't find nothing. And then it dawns on me, oh, wait, my phone can sit on the papers, right? And it is a paperweight. Now, the reason why I didn't think about it earlier is because in my mind, this thing is a phone. It's not a paperweight. I had to break out of the functional fixed box, right? The functional fixed box, because I was attached to what the function of this thing was rather than what the possibilities of this thing was.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
Right.
I love that for businesses too. Now think of, what a correlation possibility, right? Think about your functional fixedness as you look at your business. What else could it be? We've talked about that, and I'll start foaming at the mouth because I'll get so happy, and I won't, so because that, right, that is a part of why the asset that you create, especially if it's in a digital space, is so much more useful, right? The profit margins are greater. And as a result of the profit margins being greater, you can do more stuff. right? You can hire
Right.
more people,
Right.
you can hire more things out, you can get more contractors in because you've got a bigger cushion than
Right.
something that is maybe an on the ground.
Right.
Now look, I'm not throwing every
Right.
underground business under the bus.
Yeah.
Starbucks is
Right.
doing a really good job of what they're
Exactly.
doing.
And how did they do that? They took something that was in one place and they put it in another place. And the right Starbucks, the ambiance and the space and all the rest of that, they created a whole culture around coffee that said it's good to pay $5 for this coffee. I know you only pay $1.50 for the McDonald's coffee, but this is $5 coffee over here. And people were happy to pay it. Right. And I think to your point, something is interesting, like you resourcefulness is a mindset, right? It's not a thing, right? Resources are things that you use to do other things. A mindset is a way of seeing the world. And I think something that's really interesting, like even when you talk about um being aware, right? I gave a speech today and it was a speech for a business group, right? So the Chamber of Commerce. Now, one of the interesting things about the speech that happened is after the speech, I had people coming up to me and talking to me and like, you know what, this would be great to give at like marital conferences and marriage retreats and I heard around the table, this is so good. I can actually use this at home. It's a completely separate audience than intended for,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually going to have my team looking into, hey, what if we get booked over here to give this speech over here? What can we do? Where can we sell books and make money and do stuff? Because now we have a completely different audience that, oh, yeah, guess what? If people are married, a lot of them are in the business world. So now we got a different way to get into that because this is something that people came away from. And I didn't say it. I didn't think about it. Like I've done this work, right? I was a lawyer. I did marital separations and divorces. I was a mediator. So I understand that this applies in all those areas, but I was building this specifically for business. But I just got a whole bunch of feedback from the market, right? A room full of 200 people where at least 10 or 15% of them voice their opinion that, hey, this would be great over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is what we heard people saying at the table.
That's beautiful. And the asset, let's look at the asset now. When you think asset, oh, something I have in my head. No, no. It could be the idea that you created,
Exactly.
the idea that you're executing on, then attracts
Exactly. Because I'm about to
other
write.
ideas.
Right. And I've been already
Think
in the
about
works
that
of
asset.
writing this book, right? And now I just got the idea I can write this book and I hear the audiences that this book is perfect for. Right? Because I've done the speech a number of times. People like it every time. This time people were like, that is perfect for X.
It's your acres of diamonds, right?
Exactly.
I picked up that book. I was at okay, so this weekend, my wife and we went antiquing. Now,
Hmm.
for me, bro, is I get in there and I get overwhelmed with ideas. That's what happens to me, right? So I'm in
Hmm.
there and I look, I see this old book, I see this old picture, I see an old caption, I see an old, and all I can think about is how that old something could be made new. Oh, so this old thing with a new idea. And I was just full. I'm walking around. My wife was like, "What are you doing?" I said, I was thinking because every time I came across, and then I happened to come across the Acres of Diamond book. And I was like, "Ooh, I
Hmm.
remember reading this." And
Yep.
I picked it up. It's a little book, it's maybe
Hmm.
30 pages, but it was so powerful in what it taught.
Hmm.
But it's just think about that now. The asset that Rob, and I love that story, Rob, that you were given, and then you get more ideas. You're giving a speech and then you
Yeah.
get more ideas. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
That becomes what you're thinking about, and what you put out into the world becomes an asset for you because it can attract other good stuff. All right, I repeated myself. I just said it, but it bears repeating because we want you to get this. We want you to look at your business and start asking questions of it. Now, you've heard us talk a little bit about this in some of our other podcasts, right? Because we
Hmm.
want to hammer on it until one day you go, that's what they were talking about. Exactly. That's exactly it, right? So, do you have the resourcefulness though to recognize it?
That's the key. Do you have the mindset
Now,
to
Rob
be
comes
able
into
to
a
see
business.
what it can
He's
be?
You're doing that. You're looking at business and you're going, hey, what are we doing with that over there? Oh, that's nothing. Like, what do you mean?
That's the
That's an
whole thing.
asset that we need to, or that's something that
Exactly.
we need to get off the books, or whatever it is, right? When I'm looking
Exactly.
at people's
Exactly.
lives and businesses, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going, hey, let's monetize that. What do you mean? Well, because we can monetize that, and that can be a separate section, and that can create a nice margin for yourself that you can peel off from that margin to kind of pay for some other things that then do the same thing.
Yep.
Sounds
And
easy for
it
us,
all
doesn't it?
boils back down to right. It definitely sounds easy. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that people are going to run into. Because right, we get on here and even for us, it sounds easy when we're talking, and then we try to apply it. Right. So let's take the case study. Right. For example, like we just talked about the
Uh-huh,
speech that I gave.
uh-huh.
I just heard people say, this would be great for here. This would be great for there. Now, switching it over isn't going to be easy, right? There's things I'm going to run into. Number one, I don't know that market. Like I've never researched the marital, right,
But you
spousal
know
health,
somebody who is.
whatever market.
You said it earlier, JV. Now you slid that
Oh,
in, and I wondered if
mhm.
people got that. I was like, bro, stop with the acronyms. JV means, and then he spelled it out, joint
Joint
venture.
venture. Yep,
I
yep, yep,
don't
yep.
know this market. Who does? Goes back
Exactly.
to the who, not how.
That's the key, and that's the thing, right? So when you all run into that problem, I don't know this. I don't have this information. That's exactly what you want to do. You want to go into the who instead of the how. Now, it's the very people that came up to me and said this. The beauty of it was they were also suggesting places that I could actually go and speak at. Right? They are the first evangelists, and so one of the things that it took me a long time to learn this, but so y'all are welcome. Y'all can learn from my pain, right? One of the biggest things that is important for people to realize when you are trying to start something new or break into a new market or whatever is use guides. Use people who have already been there, who know it, and pay them whatever they need to get paid so that you can get the fast pass, right? I remember we took the kids to Disney World, and I cannot explain enough, especially in Disney World, Hollywood Studios, right? You go to the Harry Potter stuff, and everything is hour and a half, 2 hours. But there's these other spots where if you have the express pass, you save hours waiting in line. You basically get to do the park 2 or 3 times in a day compared to having to stand in line most of your day. The extra
What is
money
that
that it
extra?
costs, yeah, it's extra money. The extra money that it costs is far and away worth the money that you pay. Now, right? And at Disneyland and Disney
Wow.
World and Hollywood Studios are different, right? So Disney World, they've actually upped their game now because what they do now is they have two lines and they have stuff and they actually give you an app so you can see what the weights are on different rides. So in the park how to set up everything and you can get to the front. Right? They have an express lane. But I remember about 4 years ago when we went to Disneyland and they didn't have it. And it literally made the two experiences
Mm.
horrible. And here's the interesting thing to what we're talking about here. A lot of people won't buy it though, because they're like, it's more expensive. But what you're not looking at is how much more time you're saving and how much better an experience you're going to have. And what is that worth? What you're doing is comparing it to the normal slog, the normal, oh, this is going to take forever. I think one of the biggest things, especially if you can get guarantees, if you can get people that can show you how much time you're going to save, make sure you value your time and your energy properly. Right?
That
Time
is
is the most
tremendous.
valuable thing that you have in the world. And so if you can do things that can save you time,
And
you
see,
really need to look at what the money is that it costs because it normally is not even close.
and I'm all over the business model as an asset, right? Because if y'all hearing this stuff, right, this is why we do this. We come on here and we drop out stuff, stuff that we've read, but then we might hear something and go, hey, wait a minute, that's something, and you should hear it too, right? You should hear this and say, and I want you to put it in the comments, put it in, send us a note, whatever it is that says, I just heard a business model and I got from that a possibility that I could use in my business, right? So it's the model. So think about what you said. You can pay to skip the line. I'm thinking about James Altucher's book called Skip the Line, right? I was reading it the other day. And that's doing things to get you ahead. And when you just mentioned that, it brought together those thinkings, that thought. So let's see if I got this right. You can pay more to save time. You have to decide what is the value of my time and my children's time. And imagine this. Imagine that you are now skipping. People are watching you go ahead. But isn't that the same as in an airline? I was listening to a rap song and the guy says, "Yeah, I don't have to go through TSA." That's a skip the
Yep.
line moment. So what is it in your
Yes.
business? Look at your business and says, what is it that I can peel off from my business that makes people feel that they would be skipping the line? Could I put that on a landing page? Could I put that on my website? Hey, if you want this right now, here's the way to get it. Right? That
Yep.
velvet, we've talked about this velvet rope approach. You see the people standing out and they're like, hey, what? What's that line? Why is that gonna? Well, they get
Mhm.
in earlier. They don't have to wait.
Mhm.
No, y'all gotta wait. They paid to get in earlier. Now they're basically assuming that there's value there. And man, how this goes back what you said earlier. Functional fixedness would have says, hey, I'm just going in a building. No, someone says, hey, let's have two lines.
Mhm.
Velvet rope line that people have to prepay for. Boom, I'm going to get my money. I'm going to fill up the club. So when you go in, it's all ready. And I'm going to have this line out here that people say, well, it must be popping over there because this is a line out here. So two work together. But if you're just thinking, oh, I just got an ice cream business. I just got a cleaning service. I just, have a burger joint. You got much more. Get rid of that
Mhm.
functional fixedness. I love that word, by the way. I'm looking it up afterwards. And then see what you could peel off, right? What part of you could peel off. And I'm of the mind that you can take any business, personally, any business, and then create content around it, and therefore create words around it, and therefore create how-tos around it, and therefore create a community around it. And as a result of creating the community, leveraging the community to then sell into the community. Come on, y'all. You can
Yes.
have something you do con, right? Remember how they used to, everything had con at there,
Yep.
Comic
Yep.
Con, and
Comic
then it just
Con.
like
Yeah.
went, right? Why can't you do that? Here's an example, y'all. Case study. I was talking to a lawyer, and she wanted to, create. I said, well, if it's not one, create one. That's all. If it's
That's
not
it.
one already, create one. And I says,
That's it.
and as a result of you creating it, I says, it's like creating a barrel. And then people come over and says, hey, what's in that barrel? And you go, well, this is in there. And they look in there and go, oh,
Mhm.
that's some stuff that I want. And you go, well, to get in here, it costs X amount of dollars.
Mhm.
I said, but if you never create the barrel, the asset,
Yep. Yep.
if you never
And the
create it,
beauty of it is, right, to finish out the analogy, once they jump in to get that thing, now you got barrels of fish that you ain't got to go to the lake to fish no more. You just go back to the barrel. Hey, we got this other thing. Y'all want it? Hey, we
yeah,
got
by
this
the
other
way,
thing.
I'm introducing something else into the barrel.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, I don't know. Maybe you want some navigation while you're in the
Hmm.
barrel. Maybe you want your
Yep.
own little, enclave or conclave. I can't remember. Conclave in the barrel. Your own little
Yep.
spot.
Yep.
Yeah, I would
Yep.
like that. So that's it, everybody. We really wanted to talk to you about this asset, the building of or acquiring of. I've been on Roland Frazier again, man. I'm literally going to buy one of his little $7. You know, come on, $7. I would have said $10 and I get you $3 off. So I'm gonna do it a little differently. But anyway, so he's got this $7. Hey, let's do this thing. I'm going to show you how we, create a seven-figure business. Now I know I shouldn't be buying no other anything. I just am nosy as to the whole process, and he's
Hmm.
typically the kind of guy that likes to buy a company and then build it up. But this is another angle. And he said, "Oh, we're going to use
Hmm.
AI, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to learn and I'm a model, just like we want you to do when you listen to us. Hear these things dropping out. Drop
Hmm.
some, stuff in the comments. Of course, send it to some people that need to hear it. Subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. But at the same time, use this stuff, right? This is stuff that you could just pick up and go, I need to look at my business differently. Yes. Call us up. Say, how would I go about this? I get a regular
Right.
text probably from an entrepreneur every couple of days. And she'll ask me, all kinds of stuff. Like, hey, like for instance, today it was like, hey, how do I get on, use Zoom to get on Facebook Live? So I says, I'll tell you what, I'll create a video for you. What have I just done, y'all?
Yep, create an asset.
Request from the community. I now create an asset that as a result of showing her, she gets help. And then I use it on YouTube, or I use it on Shorts, or I use it on TikTok that says, this is how you do it. Somebody out there goes, oh, I didn't know that. And it says, well, shoot, what else does he got? Leave a link
Ding,
for him
ding,
to get to
ding.
your other stuff. You seeing it?
Mhm.
And this was something that I wasn't necessarily searching for, but it was a question that I can now be of service. Create a small, and I do this all the time. I'll get on Loom, or I'll get on Komodo Decks, and I'll create a little video real quick, 6 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it is. But now I own it. Asset. I can put it on my courses. I can give away as a free something. Y'all see it?
Mhm.
Are y'all seeing it? If you're seeing it, then we want to hear about it in the comments. Or if you want us to work with you, hey, we'll do it. This is what we do for a living.
There we go.
All right. So, hey, everybody, take this stuff, run with it. Rob, you want to drop a couple of last things on them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Randy, you talked about this, and I think if y'all take this away, the word resourcefulness, right? It's a mindset. It's about how you look at things. It's not about what you have available to you, right? And if you can increase your ability to see multiple things, to get out of your functional fixedness, to see multiple opportunities where normal people only see one or two, you now, right? Just think about that. If you can see four opportunities where somebody only sees one or two, you have double the opportunities everywhere you go than everybody around you.
There it is. Talk next time, y'all.